evening. Good evening. I wanted to bring Lynne up on stage. I'm just so dazzled by the power of all the research that she brings together that ultimately leads us to understand the nature of reality in our lives. And I find when I read her work, that what happens is my mind goes, oh, that's why. And she has a way of pulling together various aspects of science, physics, what's going on in molecular biology, and somehow it all comes back to the essence of life. And so I feel privileged to stand on the stage with her, and her knowledge is endless and is so inspiring. And so here you are, this dazzling woman.
Thank you very much, Brandon. I first heard of Brandon some years ago because one of the doctors I rate the most, Dr. Patrick Kingsley, who routinely heals people from cancer, and indeed healed my mother-in-law from end-stage breast cancer, kept telling me, every patient of mine I send to Brandon Bays. Every patient of mine with cancer I send to Brandon Bays. You've got to go on the journey. You've got to go on the journey. And I kept hearing about this, and then I finally started finding out what this journey was all about. And what I think is the most remarkable thing about you is that you have this intuitive, this totally intuitive understanding of what actually is going on in science. So what I've seen scientifically that is on the leading edge of a new paradigm, Brandon is actually experienced. And I think that is what's so remarkable. And I think your journey is the way forward. I'm getting to the radical position, and I hope to talk about it, where I don't think we need medicine anymore. I think we need new thoughts and new emotion. And that is our medicine. That's our medicine of the 21st century. And that is embodied in the Journeywork. So I really, really honor you and your work. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's the medicine of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's why the journey is so amazing, what Brandon does, because she came to an intuitive place through her own journey to discover what I believe is going to be the future of medicine. It's about unscrambling the frequencies. This is about emotion and thought somehow getting into the body and completely changing whatever system is going on there. So I looked into this, and it's very, very interesting because over and over, it's the stories, the case studies they describe in the medical literature of spontaneous healing are people who recover the plot. They recover the role as the protagonist in their own drama, the heroine of the hero. They go inside and deep, and they flush out whatever it is. They flush out the bad thought. They flush out the emotional pain. They get rid of the abusive husband. They drop the job or the abusive boss. They recover the joy. They do whatever it was they always wanted to do, but they recover the joy. They find their aspiration. And this is amazing to me because it suggests that healing doesn't need all those gadgets and gizmos. It doesn't need juicing. It's all helpful, believe me, if you've got toxic stuff in your life, get rid of it. I mean, I certainly do look at that, but it's not the central element here. The central element is about your thoughts. The central element's about your emotions and what they're doing to you and how they're killing you. So I just want to congratulate Brandon because I think what she's been doing over the years has been remarkable. It's been so ahead of her time, and it's been so beautifully simple. The idea that emotion and thought is the root of the problem and needs to be opened up and opened out. And it is turned out to be something that was an intuitive leap like many scientists make too, that has turned out to be the truth.
Here it was, I was so trained and certified in so many fields. And yet I still got very ill. For those of you that don't know, I ended up being diagnosed with a tumor that was the size of a basketball. And it really sent me reeling because I realized that I thought I was doing everything right. And yet I still got ill. And so it sent me on a journey into really discovering what the truth was. And what I needed to do for myself was kind of throw out all the formulas, throw out all the ideas, throw out all the teachings that I had formally learned, that I had bought into and taken as a given. And I had to, instead of just taking that as for granted, I had to kind of put all that aside and go someplace deeper. And I was very grateful that time for the work that was going on in the field of cellular biology and molecular biology. And I was so grateful for Dr. Deepak Chopra. What he was doing is he had created and amassed hundreds and ultimately thousands of case studies for people who had survived serious illness without drugs or surgery. And he found in amassing all these case studies that through some act of grace or spontaneous event, they got access to this that he called at that time the infinite intelligence, the part of you that makes your heart beat and your eyes shine and your hair grow. And when opening into that I call source, this essence, somehow, spontaneously, they might have gotten access to what he called at that time the phantom cell memory. And he postulated at that time that stored inside the degenerative cells are old repressed cell memories, old traumas, old emotion where we've just kind of put a lid on it, swept it away. And indeed, what current science has found is that when you feel a strong emotion and you repress it, it releases into our bloodstream a quantifiable biochemistry which will go to certain cell receptors and block them, rendering those cells incapable of communicating with the rest of the cells in the body. And if over time illness is going to happen, then there's a likelihood that it'll happen where the cells are blocked. They've also found that when you feel your emotions naturally, openly, easily, like a child, our cell receptors remain open.